Hey guys, welcome to the Plug Into Your Life podcast, where you learn to plug into your life, transform yourself, and be interested and curious in your own life, become your experimenter in your life. And we have Marlena here, and I'm so excited to open this discussion on coaching and what that even means and how it can transform your life. It definitely transformed my life. And Marlena, I just want to thank you for coming on here today.
Hmm.
I know kind of feeling a little under the weather maybe, but we're going to send you love and light. And can you please kind of, before we get into all the magical stuff that you do and helping people transform their lives, what was your life like before you got into coaching? It was over 20 years ago now. Um, could you kind of describe what was like before, and then how did you end up discovering this passion that you're in now?
Hmm. Yeah, it's such a great question. Sometimes I reflect on that, and I haven't reflected on that for a while. So before I had my first coach, I was in a life transition, leaving a full-time job, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And although I was always very passionate about living my values and had an inner kind of guidance, I was very scattered. I was all over the place. Oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. And I was always too busy. I was stressed a lot. I had a lot of stress. Had a lot of self-doubt. And when I started working with my first coach, he just helped me get really clear, more focused, more centered, and more aware of my choices, like what I really wanted to say yes to, what I wanted to say no to. And through his coaching and our coaching, I coached with him for about a year, pretty much every week. And we did a whole exploration of my values, my vision for my life purpose, my gifts and talents. I mean, it was like a full excavation. And
Mm.
out of that, I decided I wanted to become a coach because it was so impactful
Mm.
and clarifying. And I felt like I had direction. And I felt like I knew myself really well after that process. I felt like I know myself and who I am and what I'm about.
Wow, that's so beautifully put, because I had a very similar experience. It was like I had so many ideas, and I believe that people that are creative by nature, we kind of get lost in the addiction of our thinking, right? And before you know it, you can't control it. Like people say, "Oh, you should meditate or something." I tried meditating in the beginning of all this, and I was like, I can't even sit here for 1 minute and like quiet
Mm,
my mind. It was just and of course, I had the hustle going on. I was working like 70 hours a week, I
mm,
had a business and all this stuff. And I got stuck. And if anybody's listening and you're feeling like that anxiousness of loss of control over your thoughts and
mhm,
scattered, right? You
mhm,
mentioned just feeling like you didn't have clarity. Um, a coach for me did the same thing. It allowed me space for someone else's perspective to come in and say, well, did you think about this? And maybe I wouldn't do this first. I've already done that, and what really
mhm,
it did for me was save me time, which is the most valuable thing in my life, and give me clarity and the
mhm.
vision and the values. It's like all the same stuff. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So now, were you working as a business owner, or what were you doing that prompted you to get a coach?
I was actually working as an outdoor educator. I was working as a wilderness guide and outdoor educator for
Really?
a company called Outward Bound. Maybe some of you have heard of it, working with young people and adults, taking them in long wilderness courses. And I was helping run our base camp and I took a management position. And when I knew I wanted to leave that, it was such a fulfilling career at the time. It was such a fulfilling job. I was like, what am I going to do that's as fulfilling as this in the world? And so, and I also had a full-time job with benefits with them. I just bought a house, I had a mortgage, and I was like, what am I going to do? Big life transition.
Mm.
So when I started working with this coach, it really helped guide me to, right, what's my next move? What's my next step? Um, and I love what you said about the clarity that comes with coaching. And what also I think coaches do that's so needed is that they reflect back your strengths. And so I really needed that at that time. I needed someone to say to me, I see you in these ways. You have these gifts, you have these strengths. And I couldn't necessarily see that myself. And over time, I began to incorporate that. I began to absorb that myself. And when I looked ahead at my future, it was like, how can I capitalize on my strengths and my talents and my gifts, not someone else's? I don't have to be someone else. I just have to be the best version of myself. And that really helped me clarify a lot how I was going to be of service in the world. And I realized I have a natural gift of empowering people. I have a natural gift of being curious about people. I have a natural, it was just natural. Like I didn't have to try hard. And I thought, wow, if I leverage that, that's going to take me far, as opposed to trying to build up some strength that doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
So through the coaching, I realized, oh, I have these, right, already innate talents. Why don't I put them to use and see what happens?
Gosh, that's such a good point. I mean, oh shit. It's like when I had the clarity of the things I was good at, the same thing. The coach was like, "Man, you're like a natural this and that." And I'm
Mhm.
like, "Oh, yeah, I am," you know. But what he also showed was things I wasn't good at, and to stop
Mm.
wasting my time forcing or trying
Mm.
to become this thing that I'm not, and learning how to delegate things that I'm not good at, and accepting, you know what? I really don't like doing this and I don't have to do it. You know, it's like
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, so powerful. I bet that was scary though. And I love your old job, by the way. I love coaching, but that one sounds so fun. I can't wait to share with you. Like, I have a inner passion of outdoors and kids and camps I'm trying to start, and like, oh, that's another topic.
Very cool.
But so I bet that was scary though. Like when you experienced a coach. So what did that look like for you? So if somebody is becoming like curious, maybe they've heard of coaching,
Hmm.
maybe they think it's expensive or something, which by the way, people who pay attention. That's why we need to charge money for that.
Hmm.
And all the information is free and you're not doing anything with it anyway. So you need to pay so you actually take action, right?
Yep.
um, what was that like for you? Like, okay, so you started that shift of what else can I do? How can
Hmm.
how did you come across the coach, I guess, is where I'm asking.
Well, I was lucky. I mean, this was 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, when you told people you're a coach, they said, oh, great, you're a soccer coach, you're a basketball coach. It wasn't really clear yet in the world what, a personal coach was, or a business coach. Even business coaching was a little more kind of out there, but life coaching, or, leadership coaching, or personal transformational coaching, wasn't
I remember when I first started hearing life coaching, I was like,
right.
life
Right.
coach? Like, what is
Yeah.
that?
What is that?
Yeah.
So through a friend, I found this coach, and I was beginning to teach yoga and meditation at the time. And actually, he and I traded, we bartered. He wanted to learn to meditate and he needed to do more yoga, and I wanted coaching. And so I was broke. And so he and I actually traded. So someone coming into coaching, there's many ways to get coached. I mean, that was one way. I eventually hired a coach, at different stages. I've always had a coach at different times, and I've paid lots of money for a coach, right, at different times. And I think if you can find a coach you can afford,
Mhm.
maybe it's a little bit of a stretch. I always think a little stretch is good, because this coaching is going to be a stretch.
Yes.
So you kind of want something that's going to have, like you said, skin in the game. And if you find someone that is affordable enough, but also a stretch, right, to help you make some moves and also feel the value of coaching, it
Mhm.
becomes easier to pay later because you know the value.
Yeah.
And to me, the value of coaching is that the changes that I make when I have a coach are like 10x the changes I would make on my own. I mean, honestly, I got a entire career out of my first coach, right? I have made huge life decisions that were super important through coaching, relationship decisions, career decisions, relocation decisions,
Mm.
family relation, family decisions, like lots of things that saved me hours and weeks and months of stress and fretting and
Oh yeah.
confusion and going around and procrastinating. And my life has become, I know this might sound really weird, like a weird way to describe it, but this word is just popping to me in the moment. It's like my life has become more efficient. I just waste
Mm.
less time worrying, fretting, making decisions that don't serve me, winding up in cul-de-sacs and dead end roads. It's like my life has only been more forward moving through coaching.
Mm.
And so to me, I don't know how you put a number of a price tag on that. I mean, it's like my happiness, my fulfillment, my well-being,
Yeah.
my empowerment is priceless. And so if you can find someone that meets you at least in a place where you can, right, pay something and get going, just go for it. Just
Yeah.
even 3 months of coaching, I mean, 6 months, a year, but even to get your foot in the door and get a taste, most people don't know. And then once they've had a taste of it, they're like, oh my gosh. I mean, some
Yeah.
people say, and I've been in and out of therapy. I think therapy is great. I have nothing against therapy. People will say to me, I've been in therapy for 10 years and in a month of coaching, I've made more changes simply because the process, they're ready, they're ripe, they need something in that way that coaching, offers, and boom, they're off and running.
Yeah, it's so impactful. So a coach that we utilize, it says, basically anything that you're desiring in life, if you hire a coach, you're almost 100% guaranteed to acquire that thing. It's because you're putting intention and attention with another human being that's holding you accountable, and you got skin in the game, and you're like, oh my God, I'm paying this guy. I might as well do what he's telling me to do. And then you see results. I think that's what really, I remember my first time, it was like $1,000 a month or something. And I was so scared of that $1,000. I was like, it's so much money. I could do so much stuff, right? And then after I started getting results, like, oh wow, like I didn't think about that. Or oh wow, like wow, this really did help. Like like all of a sudden you start seeing results and how it's fast forwarding your goals. um and I did discover my own values, which helped me hire and fire and like all these other aspects of life and people in my own life, in my personal life. All of a sudden you start seeing this forward motion, and it builds up this momentum in your life. And then I ended up paying like 5 grand a month because I'm like, I'm never stopping this.
Right,
You know
right,
what I mean?
right.
I want the
Totally.
best and the top, and I want to go farther and faster.
Yeah.
And it's addicting.
It is your potential. I think what's
Yeah.
addicting is living our full potential, that we have capacity and
Yeah.
potential that's limitless and endless, and we can keep leveraging it and capitalizing on it and doing things we didn't think we would do before. That was the bridge when I worked in outdoor education. It was like people would come out to the woods for, 2, 3 weeks at a time, and we'd go rappelling and rock climbing and rafting and backpacking, and people would do things that they never thought they could do. And then they would have this confidence. What else could I do? What else could I do? What's around the next corner? So that kind of thing that happens in coaching. Oh, I did that and
Mm.
I'm scared or nervous or, but what else? And the coach helps you, right? Keep expanding. And, I just paid a lot of money for being in a coaching mastermind that, was a stretch for me. And I think it was like a couple months afterwards, I don't even think about the money anymore. I'm
Yeah.
just in it. I'm in my growth. I'm in my expansion. I've got all this support. And it's like, and the money's coming to pay off that money and it's all flowing. And it's like, clients might be like you and I at the beginning. Oh no, this is so much. But once the momentum starts going, they rarely talk about the money, when they're having results. And often they're making more money, or, the money's coming somehow through their, like you said, attention and intention.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like, I think it's a good addiction.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Dylan? Isn't it a good
Oh yeah.
addiction to like
So good.
to keep going, like to not stop in your own,
Yeah. And I can feel people listening to this. I mean, you have to have the curiosity of personal growth to be listening to this, and
Yeah.
don't stop. It's like, oh my gosh, like I have hit the ceiling and the floor on almost every other area of my life. And when I discovered personal growth, and it
Mhm.
it ties in with, spirituality, whatever that looks like for you. I sometimes I hate using words like that because they have emotional charge to them,
Mm,
but it's tied to that. You bring up meditation and nature, and all of a sudden personal growth, you're really just becoming familiar with yourself.
mhm,
And a therapist, I think I love them too. I use them, and they have their tool with, you know giving yourself validation and feedback. But Einstein says, you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created the problem, and
mm,
my mind is the problem. So if I have another mind that's elevated, that
mm,
sees me as elevated, i'm
mm.
gonna i'm gonna rise above those problems, and I'm gonna see it differently. And
Yeah, you keep using that word perspective. And I think that's one of the beautiful things that a coach or a spiritual teacher or anyone, a therapist, anyone who, really has something to offer or adds value to your life is someone who can challenge your limiting beliefs. That's one of my favorite parts of being a coach, is really getting in there on the limiting beliefs and like, let's really get in there and challenge that and find out like, what's that about? And do you want to keep believing that? And is that true? Because if you really get into, I also teach meditation and have been meditating for over 20 years now. And it's like when those opportunities come, when we can see our thoughts and we can recognize that is just a thought. It's not easy, but when we can recognize it's just a thought,
mm,
and it doesn't actually, it's not actually real, but it feels so real. And then we can unhook from them and either just choose to not think anything in that moment or just release it, or choose to think a different thought. It's like that's a moment, I think, of enlightenment. That's a moment of, you know freedom from
well,
our habitual way of
so
being.
say that one more time. So when you recognize your thoughts are just a thought.
It happens to me all the time. I'll
Oh,
have this old
powerful.
repeating limiting thought like, oh, Marlena, that person didn't, this is like just old from my life. Like, oh, that person didn't text you back because they're upset with you.
Mm,
You did something wrong. And it's like, I know better. It's like they
mm.
didn't text me back because people are busy and they're living their life. And like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
It's
not
just a
about me.
thought.
It's just not about me. But that old thought wants to make it about me. It wants to say you did something wrong because that's the old story
Yeah.
and it's your fault. And, they're upset with you. And it's like, the other day I just caught that. And I was like, I was feeling the ickiness of that thought, just, oh, that makes me feel bad. And even if it's true, why would I just want to, that feels bad. And
Yeah.
then I sat with it and I was like, this is a thought. This is not based in any evidence or reality in this moment. And then I was like, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to surrender that thought. I'm going to be with whatever's underneath. the fear, vulnerability. I reached out to this person and it was a little vulnerable. They haven't gotten back to me. I wanted, to connect, come back home, don't spin out.
Yeah.
Like you said, come back to myself, kindness. So that's something else I've learned on this path, right? So much kindness and compassion, because these thoughts are old and strong and they take over and we're gone,
Mm.
in 2 seconds, I can be gone in some train of thought. So it's like so much kindness, so much compassion, so much gentleness, just okay, see what happens, surrender, kindness, and then just, right, move on and not put my attention there, put my attention on something else, which I did. And 2 days later, this person texted me back and said, "Oh, I've been out of town and I can't wait to see you." And so
Yeah.
I'm over here being crazy lady,
Yeah.
right, with these thoughts, and they're just on vacation.
Mm. Yeah, and
So
I love that, there's people in my life that if I text, I know better because they're trapped in those stories, those patterns of thinking. And I think what people don't realize is, your brain will fire neurons that fire together, wire together, and
mhm,
when you fire that same pattern of thinking over and over again, it just becomes a habit and routine. To get out of that requires you to become aware of your thoughts. And meditation is the most powerful tool on earth, I believe, to do this because you're sitting with yourself. A lot of people say, I can't do it. I can't stop thinking. Well, it's not about stopping your thinking, it's
mm,
about becoming aware of them. And eventually, that space in between each thought gets bigger and bigger, and it allows you space to just be comfortable with yourself. And then it's like this weird magical moment happens where you become the one that's in control of your thoughts. Even though you may not control it at that moment, you're aware of it. And like you said, wait a minute, let's breathe. Your anchor to life. Let's breathe. Let's rethink this and approach this with a mind of love and care and compassion. And then you ascend that. And then all of a sudden you realize that that story wasn't real, anyways, which, by the way, our memories are 50% not even real based on your emotional state at that time when you took a picture in your brain. Oh, I love that. So
when
you
I
also,
first started,
oh,
oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. When I first
No,
started meditating, my girlfriend gave me this bumper sticker and I taped it to my refrigerator, and it said, "Don't believe everything you think." And it was my
yeah,
motto for years.
true.
It was like, oh,
Oh, how many times do we, and I do this myself, which is why I recognize it. You'll be talking to somebody and they just have these thoughts about whatever you're saying. And you're like, yeah, but, there's another way to look at that. And like, no, 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 this is how it is. It's like they're
mm,
so latched on to this thought.
mm-hmm,
And it's,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
oh, it's, it's
Yes,
stressful.
yes, it is.
It's like you're
It
putting
is.
everything in this little box and, you
Mm-hmm,
know, open the box, go out of that box and take it's like I think there's like this thing in life and everyone's looking at it, but everyone has a different angle. I'm on the
mm-hmm,
left side, you're on the right side. If I'm
mm,
not willing on seeing or hearing your side of this thing, why? Like what? I'm gonna go on my life and I'm gonna end up, 100 years from now, no one's gonna remember anything about any of the stuff that I have a problem with now. So why have a problem with it now? Look at a different way of this. Okay. Yeah, very powerful stuff. uh, Gets me worked up even just thinking about like those thoughts, and especially people in my life that are attached to that. And I'm just so thankful to kind of come out the other side of that. And if you're listening, you too can grab that awareness. Grab some meditation, reaching out. We're gonna put Marlena's links down below so you guys can reach out to her if anything's resonating or you're
mm,
interested in starting down this journey.
mm-hmm,
Definitely want to put that stuff below. And Marlena, so you also became you're certified with a Search Inside Yourself Institute, Spirit Rock Meditation, and some other things. How do these different aspects? How do you use these, and how does each one kind of fit into place with the whole picture of coaching?
That's a great question, Dylan. So I started meditating when I was in my late 20s, and that was a very personal thing. I was drawn to Buddhism and meditation and mindfulness, and I never expected that to be anything that would do with my career. It was just my own personal spiritual path and journey. And then when mindfulness really boomed, probably about a decade or more ago, it became very mainstream. And there were a lot of people wanting to learn mindfulness who weren't um, necessarily in spiritual traditions or Buddhists or anything. So, secular mindfulness became more popular. Um, and so I was already on a journey through Spirit Rock Meditation Center in California of my own deepening, my own um, dharma, we call it, my own teachings, my own realization of, what's possible through the Buddhist path. And so I got certified through them to be a community dharma leader, which is I can host, day-long retreats, give talks, have students do things like that. And then I also got certified through Search Inside Yourself, which is corporate mindfulness, which is for people in the business world. It was a program that was started at Google, very, very popular, spun out and they started their own institute. And so I am certified to teach corporate mindfulness or Buddhist mindfulness,
Mm.
secular and non-secular. And so about probably 10 or so years ago, I had some coaching clients come to me and say, I want to learn to meditate. And I would say, great, go to your local meditation center, listen to this podcast, do this and that. And they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so after a while, I said, okay, fine, I'll teach you. So I started a group for my coaching clients. So that's how I've done it, where I have coaching clients and I don't weave meditation and mindfulness into those coaching calls because it's all about them. I
Mm.
hold different calls and classes to teach people meditation. And in that realm, I'm not a coach so much. I'm a teacher. I put my
Mm.
meditation teacher hat on, teach them to meditate. But we have a group discussion where I end up coaching people it's like a group coaching. So we meditate, I give them Dharma training, I do a talk, and then we have a group discussion. So that's how I've done it. So I can wear all the hats, because in the coaching session, it's about their goals, their dreams, their vision, and really leaning into their intuition and their wisdom. It's not me telling them what to do.
Mm.
In the teacher role, I can be more of a guide and a leader and say, well, this is what I see has worked. These are the traditions that I'm steeped in. These are the practices, and I guide and lead those practices. So I found a way to be able to go in and out of these different roles that works for me right now. And then, I also train coaches in organizations. And in that way, I go in and I train business leaders, the coach approach to management and business.
Mm.
So let's say you have a team, let's say you're newly promoted or you're a new manager or a senior manager or a C-suite executive, and you want your team to be more connected, more empowered, better communication. You want to develop your team, you want to grow your organization. We come in and train you in coactive coaching skills so that basically your culture is a coach approach,
Mm.
right? You create a business culture of coaching inside the business. So you're not just the standalone coach, you're actually training your peers, your colleagues, your direct reports, how to be coach like at work. So they won't become coaches, but they'll be coach like in their leadership.
Oh man, you brought up some really good stuff. And I never really thought about that. How, as a coach, which by the way, if you're listening, is the sign of a really good coach. So kudos to you, Marlena. A, in my experience, anyways, a great coach is someone that allows the other person to recognize their own wisdom and their own
Mm.
gifts, and seeing that in that person and allowing them to shine, and really not telling somebody what to do, but more or less, well, this worked, this didn't work for me. I kind of see this perspective. I say that a lot on this show, I guess. um, and it kind of allows them to kind of choose their own path, really. But with meditation, especially someone that's not used to it, taking on that different hat, as you said, I think that's so important because now you're switching your role as okay, meditation is meditation. There's different ways, but
Mhm.
this worked for me. So if you're ready, I'm going to show you what has worked and become that teacher and that guide, as
Mhm.
opposed to somebody that doesn't know. And I'm sure there's ways of allowing someone to kind of figure that out, but you're saving them time, right?
Mhm.
And you're saying, hey, let's do this. And then this beautiful marrying of the two naturally as the person grows inside and they look inward and they learn
Mhm.
to meditate, and which means become familiar with,
Mhm.
you marry that into the business or whatever that is that their goals are. It'll naturally kind of
Mhm.
dance in between each other, and they become a great leader and emulating that.
Mhm.
It's very beautiful. Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Search
So,
Inside Yourself Institute is their mission is to have business leaders wake up and be mindful and
mm.
create mindfulness based work environments and culture. So that was a real fit for me to, right, to promote that, to want to be a part of that. So it's like um, everyday folks and also business folks.
Now, do you work a lot with a lot of business leaders and
I
corporations and
do.
stuff like that?
I
Okay.
do. Either a company hires me. I worked in tech for a long time recently because I was living in the Bay Area. So either a bit like a tech company will approach me and I'll do one-on-one coaching, or I'll come in and, like I said, train, right, these
Mm,
coaching skills for business leaders, or entrepreneurs will find me themselves, business owners, solopreneurs. I'll
mm,
coach them.
great.
So, different ways that the clients come,
Now,
different.
with your experience, what are the top three challenges you would say that people that you see people overcome, or maybe three like limiting beliefs that are a common theme
Mhm.
that people listening might be able to recognize in themselves?
Mhm. Well, my niche is mostly working with women business leaders, or women leaders of any kind. So I'm super passionate about empowering women,
Mm,
young women, older women, doesn't matter to me. Women who want to, expand their leadership or break through in some place in their life where they're stuck. And so, uh, something I see with women is, particularly in some domains of tech or business, is the imposter syndrome, imposter feeling like I'm just, someone's going to find out, or I'm just not, I'm not good enough, which is a core human experience that we all have, just not good enough. But I'm not smart enough or capable enough. And so then they overcompensate by like overworking, overproducing, over, committing to things to prove that I am worthy. And so this overdoing
mm,
to try to not ever make a mistake or fail, you know,
mm.
can become like a perfectionism, or, can become really out of balance, a lot of stress, overworking. And so a lot of women like just don't have great boundaries around their personal time, around self-care, around really needing to take care of themselves and not everyone else.
Wow. So I'm
So
hearing
I
imposter
work with that
syndrome and
self-care.
health. What
I
what
would
was
say
that?
self-care,
Oh, self care.
like really taking care of myself and not feeling like that's
Mm,
selfish.
got it.
So, and what would a third challenge be? Well, something I'm really passionate about. I wouldn't say it's always a challenge, but I love working with women around their money.
Mm,
I love working with women around the beliefs around money, their own empowerment around money, but also money management. Like women start making money, but they don't always know how to manage it. They don't
mm,
always know how to spend and save well. They don't always know how to set themselves up well for the future. So they become either reliant on the organization. I need this job because I don't have a sense that I could leave, or I'm reliant on my spouse or partner. And I love working with women to feel like they have their own autonomy and their own um, I don't want to say like sovereignty around their own finances so that they can make choices to then be interdependent with their family or, choose that job or not. But they feel more of a sense of like I'm working with this client and she says, Marlena, a year ago, my money was a mess. I was had so much shame and doubt and I was like buried and like I just felt like terrible for 30 years around my money. And she said, after working with you for a year, she said, I am now the queen of money, you know, like ruling her,
Oh, I love it.
queendom. And I thought, how
Mm.
wonderful is that? That gives her such peace in her heart. It doesn't really matter how much money she's making. I mean, that's important, but it's the inner peace. It's the sense of I got this.
I was just about to say I got this.
Confidence, right?
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I I can only imagine, like, especially for women, but like in myself, like I remember that feeling of just feeling trapped. Like
Mm.
I can't get out of this because I'm reliant on this stream of income, or maybe it's a joint bank account, and you just feel like, oh, like so enclaved in your, I don't even know if that's a word, but
Mm-hmm. It is.
like
Yeah.
like boxed in your life, and you can't get out, and you just feel trapped and like a slave to your routine, right?
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah.
what an emotion. But I feel like this conversation is saying, look, you don't have to feel that way. You can feel confident in yourself. You don't have to be scared of taking control of that, right? And it's just little baby steps, right? It doesn't start with like this big thing. Oh my gosh, I need all this money to invest and all this stuff. For me, anyways, it started with just little incremental baby steps, which happened to grow
Mm-hmm.
in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
Having an emergency account of my own, and
Mm-hmm.
like different things like that weren't
Mm-hmm.
a part of this cycle of being dependent on something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. So, man, I feel like we could talk forever on this stuff. We're already getting to the top of the hour. Marlena, so okay, if we got all this great information, and we're gonna put links down below on how to get a hold of you,
Mm-hmm.
but if you could give somebody something that they could check out today, maybe one on, personal development or growth, or something that impacted your life that somebody could check out today, book, video, something, and then maybe something on the mindfulness, meditation or
Mm-hmm.
something like that somebody could check out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I often just recommend apps because we're such an app culture.
Mm.
So I have yet to produce my own app, but there are some great apps out there. So I don't know what mindfulness apps you use. I think Headspace has been around for a long time. They're wonderful. So tap into that, or Insight Timer, some basic apps that have talks. They have short talks and long talks and meditations, and it's a global community. Once you tap into these apps, you see other people meditating. So that's an easy way. I have like executive clients. I say, okay, leave the building, every day for 10 minutes and go sit on a park bench, play the 5-minute meditation app. And I do recordings for my clients and things that they can listen to. Um, and just start somewhere, just start with a few minutes a day. I mean, I take 3 deep breaths before every meal.
Oh, wow. I never heard that before.
Super basic, 3 times a day, because I eat 3 times a day. I take 3 deep breaths before I eat my meal. And it's just, what is that? 15, 20 seconds of mindfulness. It slows me down. It's a ritual. And I've done it for so many years now that, most of my friends know that. Marlene's going to sit and then they do it too, which is really fun.
Hmm.
And so, you know, I like simple, super basic practices that you can repeat, rinse and repeat over and over to train, like you said, the neural pathways. Like you said, we have to interrupt, right? Interrupt the neural network that goes down into negativity or super future thinking and worry and doubt. And I'm familiar with all those states very well. And so we have to interrupt that, right? Like with the breath,
Hmm.
with something positive. I particularly love, because I'm kind of a neuroscience geek,
Yeah.
and I'm also a very spiritual person. So I'm this practical business person, but I'm also like pretty damn woo woo. And
I'm right
so,
there with you, girl.
right,
I
to
love
have like
it.
the
Yeah.
both and. So if I was going to recommend a book or something on spiritual book, I would say I really love and adore Rick Hansen, who is a neuroscientist and a meditation teacher, and he's written so many books on what I love is like savoring the good and creating wholesome states of mind. And but he's a neuroscientist, so he understands how the brain works. So anyway, I'll just throw that out. Rick Hansen.
Yeah,
I think
love
he's
it.
great. I think he's great.
And just I don't know, take it or leave it, but some information about food. I was reading a study about this scientist learned that you actually change the molecular structure of food by being thankful and mindful before you eat. Like just that state of gratitude alone
Mm-hmm.
changes the molecular structure of the pattern of food. And your body retains up to 50% more nutrients when you do that. When you are just, I love the breath. Wow, I've never heard that, but yeah, just anchoring to, I mean, your breath is your connection to life. It's, you breathe out carbon dioxide, it goes into the trees by light and energy and love. It turns it back into oxygen and you breathe that back in. You are connected to life and God and earth and
Mm-hmm.
grounding yourself in that breath. Oh, what an excellent way to just be mindful before you eat. Oh, love it.
Yeah, I love that information about food. I didn't know that. That's fascinating, and I can, I take that on the road with me. It's like if something stressful is going on or I'm getting wound up, it's like it's just my go-to 3 deep breaths, right? 3 deep breaths, because it's going to slow things down. I'm going to have a little pause in a moment to like either, feel some gratitude or feel that stress or whatever, but it just creates, like you said, enough of a gap, enough of a slow down. So that's also my motto, for years. It's like, cause I'm a pretty full on passionate, high energy individual. So I tell myself all the time, go slow to go fast, go slow to go fast.
Yeah, the great paradoxes of life, right? The more you want something, the more you don't get it. The more you let it go, the more it comes to you. The more you slow down, the faster you can go. It's really cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, love this conversation. I could just go on forever about all this stuff. Marlena, thank you again for being on here.
Thank you, Dylan. I love what you're up to. I'm super inspired by you and all the
Oh,
things
thank
that
you.
you're creating and manifesting in this podcast. So it's been really great. Enjoy. Thanks so much for the open invitation to join
Thank
in.
you. Yeah, and look forward to it, guys. Please like, subscribe, share. If anything resonated with you, please comment below so we can give you some more of that.
Mm.
In the meantime, plug into your life, breathe. It's gonna be all right. You got this.
That's right. Thanks,
All right,
Dylan.
guys. Have a good night. Thank you.